We are so honored to have on the show today Tori Begg. Tori is an AI strategist and enablement leader for V Digital Services, also known as Voice Media. She's a leader in transformative AI. She also is a speaker on AI. And there's so much more to Tori. She's a co-founder of Mind and Machine. It's a local DFW-based networking group. They specialize in transformative AI discussions within business, community, and all things human. You don't want to miss this episode. Tori gives us some tactical advice, is very vulnerable on how she came up in the world of AI and what we should know to help navigate in the future of work. Let's jump in, shall we? People Work is proud to present Strategic Shift, a podcast dedicated to exploring the future of work. Thank you for joining us as we hear stories of bold decisions and workforce innovations. I'm Christy Honeycutt, and I'm your host.
Tori, thank you so much for holding space for Strategic Shift today. Where are you joining us from?
Thank you so much for having me. I am coming from Dallas, Texas.
That's my home state too, and my home city. I will have to have coffee soon.
Yes, I love that.
I know that I did not do your intro justice. You are definitely known in the Dallas market for sure, in two different pockets. Would you like to share who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I work in artificial intelligence. It's the hot word that I say to everybody these days that gets them exciting. But what my real job is the senior manager of AI programs for Voice Media Group, or V Digital Services, which is a national marketing agency. So I have about 3 rungs to my job. I do adoption and enablement for sales reps, fulfillment teams, CSMs, and agency workers across the nation. So teaching them how to use AI and valuable use cases. I do AI strategy. So helping digital marketing agencies, or my digital marketing agency, look around the corners on how the world is changing with marketing as it relates to artificial intelligence. So how people are searching differently, what platforms people are using now, where they're getting their information, where they're buying, so that we can start changing our strategy as a digital marketing agency. So we're ahead of the curve as everything changes so fast, which is a hard thing to do. And I do development and building. So I help build custom large language models that we can use internally to help blast us forward, be stronger, smarter, faster, better sales reps, agency, fulfillment teams, CSMs, customer service, and really drive this fact of AI forward, human first, as we're implementing this into the business.
That's a lot. That's a big job. And you just surprised me just before this call that you've got youngins up and coming as well. So I'm really curious, having such a bad mama jamma as a mom, leaning into AI and the future of work. What are you teaching your kiddos?
Wow, what a great question. So my kids call AI Chad, and funny, I had a parent-teacher conference with my son's teacher on Friday, and she was like, every time he is curious about something or wants to learn about something, he's like, can't we just ask AI about it? And they don't use it in school very often. They go to a Montessori school, but I do have a plan in actually a couple weeks to go into the 3rd, 4th, 5th grade classrooms to teach them about how to use AI, because I think we need to really need to teach kids to use it as a co-pilot and not an answer engine. It's helping them learn, not giving them the answers. So when I'm using artificial intelligence with my children, we're putting in these processes that are teaching them how to think critically and get to the answer rather than just asking the question. And ChatGPT actually has a cool, I don't know if you've used it yet, but it's called learning mode in ChatGPT, which can help kids from my kids' age through college to figure out how to do a problem. Let's say they have a really hard math problem. It brings them to the steps rather than just giving the answer. So I teach them a lot about that learning mode and how we can use it to elevate our human brains instead of just replacing our work of finding an answer.
I would have given anything to have chatbot when I was in school. I think it was around fourth grade. My dad was trying to teach me fractions and literally drew a pie and
Yeah.
started cutting pie pieces out. I think my head hit the table 1,000 times. So, and it's funny because I used to tell my kids, hey, if I had Google, I would have made straight A's. So it is definitely a tool to help elevate. And I love the way that you're embracing that with your children. So it's not just, guys, look, Tori's not out here just slinging AI to businesses. This is a homegrown passion project. Now, I know AI has come a long ways, but could you share your story about maybe how you first got enticed? Because I feel like you were looking around the corner as well before maybe others were.
Yeah. So we talked about this a little earlier, and it's something that I've fallen more comfortable into expressing because at the end of the day, we're in this era where we have a great equalizer. AI is the great equalizer. I didn't go to college. I went for 1 year. It didn't last very long, but I was a waitress. I had my kids at 25 and 26, and I was waiting tables in Denver, Colorado at a nice restaurant. And we had this table of really smart sounding men and women at their holiday party. And I said, I wonder what they're talking about. So I had the audacity, I guess you could say, to go into the reservation book and text the person that made the reservation. And they ended up being the world leader for artificial intelligence and machine learning for Amazon Web Services. And that is kind of where my journey started. I leaned into his knowledge and started learning about artificial intelligence. This was in 2019. So far before generative AI came out. Mind you, AI has been around since the 1950s. A lot of people think that generative AI is the only AI that's been around, but it's kind of old hat. It's just this generative AI that came out pretty recently. So I started learning about it, started doing my research, learning the nooks and crannies of what artificial intelligence and machine learning was, and went from job to job, wearing a lot of hats in startups and getting my feet in the dirt in the marketing world, and started working for the Dallas Observer, or the parent company that I work for now, Voice Media Group, or V Digital Services. We have 3 names. It's confusing. And
That's how you know it's a powerhouse when you've got 3 names.
and I work for like all 3 kinda. So when generative AI came out in November 2022, as a marketing and advertising sales rep, I was able to really put it into my sales workflow and start being one of the best sales reps in the nation in the short 3 months that I was working with the company, which started, raising flags for the C-suite. And I, again, had the audacity, I guess it's the common word throughout this, or gumption, maybe,
You got grit. It's grit.
to pull the C-suite aside and say, hey, I know I've only worked here for 3 months. I know I have a waitress on my resume, and I know that you don't know me very much, but this is coming. Artificial intelligence is going to change the way that marketing agencies work, that sales reps work. And here I'm ready for this position. And I was a good sales rep, I guess, because I sold them that position. I was pretty knowledgeable at that point, putting it into my workflow and learning about it for years prior, and just blasted off from there, working with the sales teams and kind of going through those 3 buckets across the nation with every department to where I am now as the senior manager for AI programs for the entire company.
So, Tori, I have been in talent and recruitment for 20 years, and there's an argument about credentialing over skill set, or what's the word I'm looking for? Attributes. So you, my doll, are 100% an example of why that doesn't matter. You had the curiosity, you had the hunger, and you went for it. And you had the grit that you just weren't going to be told no, which I love. I love, love, love. So I'm curious, from your perspective, being the rock star that you are and coming up the way that you did, do you think that with technology changing as quickly as it does it matter? Does the credentialing matter anymore, or is it more about skill set, curiosity, and attributes?
No, I think specifically talking about artificial intelligence, like I said earlier, AI is the great equalizer. We have a gap in the workforce right now that isn't being filled from people that have been in a position for 20 years or went to college for it. Now that gap is closing really quickly, but to be a hand raiser now is going to get you places. We are moving into this time of being able to be a generalist, and it is the golden era for entrepreneurs, and it is the time for people to fall into a career that they might never have had because of AI. We can learn anything we want to learn. If we start a company, we can have a CTO in our pocket, even though we've never been a CTO, right? If we are a measly sales rep, you can learn how to implement and find valuable use cases, be a hand raiser, and find a position within your company that never existed before. So I don't think that there should be any prereqs in AI. Sure, there's people that know those codes and the zeros and the ones. I couldn't give you a code if you spotted me the 0 and the 1, you know? But we have these resources in our pockets where with determination and grit and drive, we can be whatever we want and we can learn whatever we want. And I think that that's so inspiring, and people that want to be inspired will be. And it's going to close really quickly because I think a lot of people are doing this. Coursera just came out with, I saw an X post yesterday, that 2 years ago, they were having about 8 class signups per minute. And don't kill me if I'm wrong on this quote, though, because I don't have it in my pocket. But now with the generative AI courses that they're putting out, they're getting 14 signups per generative AI class per minute. So people are like dying to learn this. They're dying to put it in to their processes, their systems, their businesses. So that gap is closing really quick, but we still have the opportunity to be a hand raiser no matter where you came from or what you did.
So I know that based on what you're doing now, and obviously you're very passionate about it, how are you augmenting your current team or your current organization's skill level with AI? Because I think we can learn a lot from your approach.
Yeah. One of the main things is I found that prompting is an emerging business necessity for anybody. You need to know how to talk to the artificial intelligence to get relevant, accurate answers back. So I try to level everybody up starting at the basics. Let's learn how to put our queries in appropriately so that when it comes back, you're not being like, oh, this doesn't do anything for me. So what I always say is give it a role, give it an action, give it a task, give it a format, and then refine and reiterate. Bring the scope of a large language model that has so much knowledge down so that it can take this role of who you're trying or what task you're trying to accomplish from whose point of view. And that will give you much better answers on the back end. So number one, teaching people how to prompt. And then I am a boots on the ground AI enablement and strategist, right? I want to see how people are working. So going in and auditing everybody's workflows, whether that's a sales rep, a CSM, a fulfillment manager, I want to break down their job into a bundle of tasks, figure out how they're working through that bundle of tasks day to day, and then find valuable use cases that they can start pushing in to that cycle, because that's where they're going to adopt. That's where they're going to find the real value. So boots on the ground, doing that audit of their workflow, understanding how we can push AI into that workflow, give them valuable use cases, even if it's a small one, right? A win. And we'll get them moving and grooving where they can start actually finding more valuable use cases on their own, so I don't have to hold their hand the entire time.
So I love the practical guidance, and this is very much needed. I have a question because I think everyone has an AI origination story. I have mine. It's a little embarrassing, but I'm curious. So mine was, let's play with Chad, that you lovingly call ChatGPT, and I had Chad write a love poem for my significant other. It was a banger. I gotta say, I was like, wow, this is great. And I actually know some C-suite leaders that used it for dating too, right? Like
Yeah.
was prompting it. I'm curious, Tori, what is your AI origination story?
Well, yours is so endearing and mine is not. Yeah, I was sitting in the office in downtown Dallas and I went to the taco place up the street and I ate like a quart of queso. And
So you had cheese brain. Got it.
so I had it write me a story about a woman who overindulged in cheese and then had it turn it into a poem and then had it write an email to my boss about how I couldn't work for the rest of the day because I was engorged with cheese. I have never been asked that question.
I mean, we all got to start somewhere. I can already tell you are a leader with curiosity and grit. And so, and very vulnerable to share this because I think, or what I'm seeing in our industry, and I'm curious what your thoughts are, is there's still a lot of fear, right? Because it's unknown. And like you said, this has been around a lot longer. And so when we take a look at, how we've grown as a society and how things have changed, right? It's very interesting. What have you seen from changes in the past 12 months?
Yeah, fear is real, right? And this is the first time that we've had a behavior shift and a tech shift at the same time. We've had one or the other, but it's uprooting people and how they're absorbing content and how they're surfing the internet and how they're living their everyday. So fear is like a real thing. So I very much am intentional with how I talk to my company about AI, because if you say, we're going to make you all more efficient, it sounds like I'm just going to replace you all, but that is not what we're going to do. We can efficient anybody out of a job, but I hold tight to my chest that we are AI forward, human first. And if we don't keep that rhetoric up, I think we can lose the plot to some extent. So making sure that people know that this is not a replacement, this is something that we can use to potentially be better is something that I try to always bring up in whether I'm talking to a group of people, whether I'm on a podcast, whether I'm doing a training at work, because it is fear-based. And AI has to be taken out of this like tech department, IT department, because I don't know about the businesses you've been in, but tech and IT aren't usually the best with change management. And this is very much at its base, a change management process. We need to change the psychology of how people are thinking about this because I don't, there's so much chatter out there about what's next and what's in the future, and it's nerve-wracking. So I make sure that like my employees and everybody that I know are keeping that humanity piece attached to this, because it is not to replace, it is, to augment. And we need to keep this idea of humans at the wheel. So I make sure that I'm always bringing that up. AI makes me a better human. It doesn't replace my humanity, and it's not going to replace your job. Maybe a sales rep that's using AI will replace a sales rep that's not using AI, but AI is not going to replace a sales rep, right? So making sure everybody knows that and feels confident and comfortable, because people will not use it because they're like, well, why am I training something else just to take my job? That's not going to be, especially at our company, and especially how I'm talking about it. I want more people to have that thought and to keep that at the forefront.
You said something that I kind of chuckled internally and probably in my eyes, as well as I don't know about where you've been and who you've experienced, but you're right, because there is a division. There's tech and IT, which and we could throw engineers in that bucket as well, that don't always, very, very rare and far between do you find someone that can translate tech to non-tech. And the majority of our community is non-tech
Yeah.
and AI is very tech. So I think what you're doing is a beautiful thing to kind of help reduce the fear. And you're right. AI won't replace your job, but someone with knowledge of AI will 100% because that's where we're moving. So just in the past 12 months, we talk about the importance of credentialing, the importance of a college degree. I was speaking with some very senior leaders within technology that said it doesn't really make sense anymore in college because by the time you graduate, what you learned, it's on the shelf. I mean, if you think about how much AI has evolved just in the past 12 months,
Yeah.
it's nuts. Now you talk a lot about use cases, which I'm a huge proponent for because I think you have to have a use case to understand what's working and what's not. Can you give us an example of maybe your favorite use case that you're doing with your current work?
Yeah, for sure. I'll give you maybe not my favorite because we have so many and I work between the sales reps, the operations team, HR, fulfillment, right? But we just had our annual all hands conference and I got to show the entire department or the entire organization's leaders this really cool use case. Have you used Notebook LM?
I haven't.
Okay, cool. Notebook LM is one of my favorite AI systems. It's a Google product and it is a closed source platform where you can upload any type of doc. Well, not a sheet, but you can upload a PDF, a doc, Google Sheets. You can attach it right to your Drive if you're a Google ecosystem. You can put in web pages and deep research and YouTube videos. You have an option in the enterprise version to have up to 300 sources. Then you can start querying against those sources. And the coolest part about Notebook LM is not only can you query against those sources as a grounded source, so it's not going to pull in hogwash about somebody else's marketing efforts from across the internet, but it also has this audio overview option. Now, this is probably something you don't want to hear as a podcast host, but it can pull in all of that information and create a podcast that you can listen to. So I use this a lot as I'm trying to train not only an AI, but enable everybody across the organization to learn about the 30 plus products that we have at VDS, from organic SEO to local SEO to programmatic advertising or first party data. Being able to grab all of the knowledge that we have, drop it into Notebook LM, and then I'm an Audible learner. So to be able to quickly make that podcast and listen to it instead of reading through a bunch of decks has taken the absorption of this knowledge up 50%, right? We have 50% Audible learners, 50% visual learners. So from there, we have, let's say, a client that's running organic SEO and they've been running with us for a year, but they also have Google paid ads and they do first party data. Because it is a closed source and data protected platform within our Google ecosystem, we can take all of that data, all of the keywords that they're ranking in, all of the transcripts from the last 7 meetings that you've had with them, and it can analyze this as a whole and be able to understand red flag or churn risks or the sentiment of the client very quickly, and then allow us to communicate again at a more human level. Or break down that data and say, oh, the work that we did 6 months ago is showing up here because of X. So you take this aggregated data and are able to query it, talk to it, listen to podcasts about it. They even have video overviews that can sum it up and puts a theme on it depending on the client. So being able to get a holistic view of a client or something that you're trying to study or a specific subject is a super valuable use case for anybody, right? I did it with my 8-year-old who was trying to learn about cavemen the other day. So we took a bunch of articles about cavemen and I had it discover even more articles. And then we listened to a podcast about cavemen on the way to school. So
I love that.
yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. It sounds like I need to learn that if it's going to replace podcasters.
It will not replace podcasters. It is nothing like this. Again, we are human because we're creating a relationship, right? We're
Yes.
chatting, we're laughing.
Human first.
That's never going to be replaced by AI. But if you are an Audible listener and you have an article that is 17 pages long, throw it into Notebook LM and listen about it.
I am going to have to check that out. I love that. Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about, kind of doing the audit and uncovering the importance of use cases, even using this with your children, which I love that you're embracing it because you are what you say you are, which is great, right? Your actions align with your words, which is a beautiful thing. What's your approach to change management? Because we teased about the techs and we teased about, the people. What is your approach? What have you seen work best?
Yeah. To get you to my approach, I have to give you some of my failure, right?
That's how I know you're a good leader, because you brought up that you fail.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about AI is we have to understand that we're all going to fail. And we have to be nimble and we have to change really quickly, right? But I started in this position and I was like, I am going to write a large doc on prompting and I'm going to give them a prompt library and I'm going to bring them through. I'm going to give them this article and this article and this article about how AI is changing sales. And I realized really quickly, nobody reads. So how do you get across to people who in this time and age have the attention span of a goldfish, right? I scroll on TikTok and I can't even watch a 3-minute video sometimes because I'm all over the place. So I realized I needed to meet people where they were. So I started making these snackable videos that are exciting. I'm an animated person. You can see my arms moving if you're watching the video. My eyebrows go up and down. I have wrinkles to God because I'm talking so much with my face, right? So I wanted to give them something that they really wanted to absorb. So going in there and doing these under 3-minute snackable videos about how to prompt or how to use Perplexity for prospecting or how to bring your clients' information to Notebook LM to dissect their data better, really brought that adoption piece even further up. Also, meeting them where they are with the use cases that are going to change those pain points. So understanding the pain points of each department and then solving the littlest ones one by one, where even if they get 10 minutes back, they're going to be stoked, right? And again, I layer this all with, let's go salesperson again. If I give you 10 minutes back on the menial and monotonous work, you get to put 10 minutes more into curating a relationship with one of your clients. You get to put 10 minutes more into nurturing somebody that might be at risk, right? So really driving where they find the value instead of just throwing AI at the wall and hoping it sticks, and then delivering that value in absorbable ways.
It was a really great answer. And again, you continuously are putting the human first, which I love. So there is so much fear. So those of you that are out there, either you have a job and you're looking to grow or you're looking for a job, please listen to what Tori's saying. Do not be fearful. Lean into it. It is, I think, most organizations to their benefit to help give time back so we can have more meaningful connections and maybe bring the workforce back to where it was back in the good old days, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that was. So, Tori, I know you're very passionate. You're doing great work where you are, but you also are a co-founder of a networking opportunity called Mind and Machine. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. It's something I'm super passionate and proud of. Like I said, I got to fail before a lot of people have even started in this position. And I realized that that was not the norm. And I wanted to take that opportunity to share with other business leaders the struggles, the trials, the tribulations, and the successes that we're all having in artificial intelligence. So I started looking around the DFW area, and there were a lot of venture capitalist AI networking things or coding tech networking things. And that really didn't speak to what I wanted to do or talk about when I went to a networking group. So me and Tim Mata, who is my other co-founder, were getting lunch, and he was picking my brain about what I've been learning about AI and the strategies that I've been using for adoption within the company. And I said, Tim, and he's a master networker. He's at networking groups like 5 times a week. I said, Tim, is there any place that people are gathering to really talk about this? And he was like, no, I don't think so. And I said, cool, well, let's start one. So that's where Mind and Machine came from. And it is a place for business owners, small, medium, large, to come together and talk about what's working, what's not working, how they used AI to build their website and do keyword research. So really talking about those strategies that make a difference in a business. So we have about a half an hour to 45-minute education piece in the beginning from speakers all over the United States at this point. We had Palo Alto come and speak a couple of months ago. We have a huge governance lady that's going to be speaking this month about AI governance, to give that education of needed knowledge for business owners. And then we do networking on the back half so that we can actually talk about these tools, tricks, tips that we're learning from these knowledge workers in artificial intelligence, and then how to implement them. So a really awesome space for people to come together. We have had our 5th meeting now, and we get about 70 people at each meeting, about 120 people that are registering. And we're having a couple of special events coming up, which I will keep you all informed on as they come to fruition. But it is a cool space, really fun, and you get to have a drink while you're talking about AI.
Everybody needs a drink while they talk about AI. So I know you've got one coming up in Dallas, I believe November 20th, if memory serves me correctly. And I love the flyer that was on that. It was talking about AI needing a life jacket.
Yeah.
So would you like to share a little bit about that? Because is that your next event coming up?
It is. It's November 20th at Two Brothers in Plano, and we have KJ Haywood coming and speaking. She is a AI governance mastermind. So she's going to be talking about how you need to protect and think about how data, the large language models, the systems that you're implementing need to have protection on the back end. I know she's very passionate about laws being passed and security being thought about and governance in general surrounding artificial intelligence, because when every business is using it and it spreads so rapidly, some of that security layer gets forgotten about. And it's wildly important, not only for your business, but for the world. So she's going to be talking about her thoughts and what she does on bringing artificial intelligence governance into businesses, and it should be very exciting.
I love that. Well, Tori, it has been an immense honor to get to know you during this short interview, and your heart and your grit, and how you're not only helping the old hats kind of wrap our heads around it, but you're also bringing up youngins within AI as well. So thank you for all you do. Is there anything that you'd like to leave the audience with before we drop?
Yeah, make AI make you more human. Don't fall into just having it replace your brain, because we all have beautiful brains and beautiful hearts, and AI is just there to help us through those tough spots, not to replace our souls, right? So keep that in mind.
I love that. And how should the audience connect with you if they'd like to learn more?
Yeah, you can follow me on LinkedIn at Tori Begg, BEGGTORI, or at Mind and Machine. I am on there all the time. And if you're in the Dallas area, come to our next meeting on November 20th.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to check my calendar because it sounds very fascinating. Again, Tori, thank you so much for holding space for the audience. And until we see you next time, keep shifting.
Thanks so much, Christy.
Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Christy Honeycutt. Be sure to subscribe to Strategic Shift so you never miss an episode. Tune in next time as we continue to explore innovation in the future of work. Until then, keep shifting.